Welcome to Complete Sports on our live TV. And on the show today, we shall be going deeper into the forthcoming NFF board elections slated for the ancient city of Benin on the 30th of September. And one position that will be keenly contested for is the position of the NFF president. And on Complete Sports today, have one of those vying for that lofty position. His name is Barrister Musa Amadu, a former General Secretary of the Nigeria Football Federation. Welcome, Barrister.
Thank you, Michael Batsi. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much. Let's go into it, Barrister. The position of the NFF presidency this time around promises to be very fascinating. Looking at the caliber of those vying, including yourself, what are the chances, Barrister?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here in your studios and having this interview. And I want to say that I have been in football administration since 2007, when I was the Deputy General Secretary of the Nigeria Football Federation. I've risen from that position to being the General Secretary of the Federation from 2010 until 2015. And I want to say that in that period, I have been able to become the most successful General Secretary in the history of Nigerian football. Under my administration in the Secretariat, we have been able to deliver 13 global and continental trophies for Nigeria. And I have been the first Nigerian to have the prestigious FIFA Master degree 20 years ago in 2002. It's called the FIFA Master in Law, Management and Humanities of Sports. So I have been well trained, I have the necessary experience, and I know what Nigerian football needs to revive itself and to become the number one in Africa and in the top 20 in the world. So my chances are quite bright, and I'm confident that in a month's time, when we have the elections in Benin on the 30th of September, I'll emerge victorious and move Nigerian football forward.
Taking a look at your manifesto, so to say, you've got a 22-point agenda, and the question is, how do you intend to put this into reality in the next 4 years?
Yes, we just have to get it right. And the first way we will be able to get it right is to give every stakeholder, from the kids playing on the fields of Ajegunle and Naibawa in Kano to the players that represent us at the highest level, we must give everybody, every stakeholder, a sense of belonging. And this is what we intend to do. The biggest problem we are having now is because the Nigerian football family is not united. You have more people out there who are wishing Nigeria bad than you have people who want us to succeed. So we must bring everybody together, the players union, the coaches union, the referees union. Every stakeholder must have a say in our football and must have a sense of belonging. So this is the first thing we need to do. We also need to have an elite advisory body made up of past presidents of the Federation and general secretaries who have seen it all, through all the years they served this great country. And we must tap into their knowledge and experiences and be advised as to how we can go forward. And it is critical that we bring back that advisory body that will be able to advise us and say, this is the way you should go about it. No, we don't think this is what you should do, and this is how you should do it, based on the experiences they have. And it is very important that we make sure that we tap into their knowledge and experiences and take their advice to heart in order to make Nigeria football better. And like I said, Nigeria at 1994 was ranked number 5 in the world. And it is surprising that now we are about 36, 37 in the world. And we are number 4 in Africa. There is no country in Africa that takes football talent to the continent of Europe more than Nigeria. If you put all the African countries together, the players that leave those countries to go to Europe are not as much as the players that leave Nigeria to go to Europe. So we have so much abundance of talent that we must make sure we put strategies in place to ensure that we become number 1 in Africa. We were number 5 in the world in 1994. And now we are somewhere about 30, 31 in the world, and number 4 in Africa. It's not good enough. We must make sure we work hard to make ourselves the number 1 member association in Africa and in the top 20 in the world. A small country like Senegal, with their limited resources, are ranked number 1 in Africa and number 18 in the world. And this is not good enough. So we must make sure that we take our rightful place in African and global football. Now, importantly also, the state football associations are the key vehicles that we can use to start grassroots football development in their various states. Unfortunately, they are not well empowered. I think if you look at their accounts every year, I'm not sure whether you have a state football association that generates more than 4 or 5 billion naira on their own. And there's just no way, if you don't have sufficient funding, for you to be able to carry out your programs and activities in your states. And we have interacted with all the state football associations, and we've shown them that they're the most important vehicle for grassroots football development in their states. And they have to have proper funding. They have to think out of the box to say, what are our limitations? The biggest limitations we have is funding. We must be able to create new revenue streams, whether it is through government funding or through sponsorship, to be able to generate enough resources for us to go into the local governments of our state and begin to tap those talents that are bound and are looking for opportunities to be able to be discovered, nurtured, developed, to play for clubs in the state, to play for clubs outside the state, to play for clubs outside Nigeria. And the effects, the multiplying effects for those kind of discoveries are immense. You have restfulness of youth will be removed, drug abuse, kidnapping, and other social vices will be removed. You will have players playing for various clubs. Employment opportunities will be generated and created. So we must be able to fund the state football associations in such a way that they become vehicles for football development in their states and in Nigeria. Now, the leagues are also the platform within which these players that are discovered, whether they're men or women, or boys and girls, will have a platform to be able to showcase their talents and grow in the game. And we must make sure that the Premier League, the National League, the Women's League, the NLO are all rebranded. Rebranded in such a way that they showcase what is beautiful in our game, whether it's on the field of play, whether it's the spectators, the refereeing, the whole gamut of the game must be turned around, and we must produce and rebrand our leagues for us to be able to succeed. And the football governance structure also has to change.
Okay.
There is a lot. There is a lot in terms of the legal structure and the football governance structure that is wrong in our football. The administrators of the game know this, but they do not have the political will to change it. So we must ensure that the governance structure in our football and all the legal issues that are surrounding it, whether we are talking about the NFF Act of 2004, the NFF statutes of 2010, we must ensure that everything, we put it right. And we must ensure that there is only one statute that is governing football in Nigeria, and that everybody knows that this is a clear path for us to ensure that our governance structure does not have any issues whatsoever. Now, football in schools. This is a program that even FIFA itself has started. And I think by now they have about 14 countries that FIFA is using for the football in schools. The latest was Costa Rica, that was done during the Under-20 FIFA Women's World Cup. And there's no reason why Nigeria should not have football in schools now, right now, because we have a FIFA member, council member. So we must ensure that football in schools is taken to our schools, the primary schools, the secondary schools, the tertiary institutions, for us to be able to develop football with education so that we are developing players that eventually, if they do not make it into the professional league, they will be able to fall back on the education they've been able to, to get so that they can now become useful citizens of the country. So football in schools is one aspect that under my administration will make sure that we bring to Nigeria. We must also build and enhance the capacity of our coaches and our referees. Now, with regard to refereeing in Nigeria, this is a big problem, a huge, huge problem. I don't think there's any club, whether it's in the Premier League, the Women's League, the NLO, that does not have one complaint or the other during any season with regard to refereeing. And refereeing is key, very, very key. We see what happens even with VAR in Premier League and in other competitions. And it is all geared towards making sure human error, as much as possible, is removed, or human interests, in some cases, is removed. And we must ensure that our referees are trained to the highest level, and we will remunerate our referees in such a way that nobody, whether you're a club owner, an administrator, or anybody who has any ulterior motive to change the eventual result of a game, will do that. So we must ensure that for the Premier League, for example, we must ensure that we have an elite group of referees. Not a situation where you have 60 referees in the Premier League. No, you have an elite group of 20 referees, well remunerated. Referees will have sponsors for the league, and the league will bring in monies, the FA will bring in monies, the clubs will put in those monies, and this body that is going to ensure that it utilizes the funds for refereeing will be the ones to pay the referees their allowances, their remuneration, their accommodation, their security, and everything it takes, so that those referees are not in any way swayed by any club administrator that wants to change the result of a game through bad refereeing. And we will make examples of any referee that does not conform to what he's supposed to do. We will ensure that those elite referees are the best in the country. We will have a way that we can compensate and remunerate them in such a way that they do their job to the best possible professional way. And the idea would be for us as a country to have a referee that will referee in the FIFA World Cup in North America. That's in 2026. We must have a referee, not an assistant referee, but a center referee. That will be part of the people, the referees that will referee in the 2026 World Cup in North America, Mexico, USA, and Canada. So we must ensure that we get our refereeing right. And we have plans which we will unfold after the elections to show how we will be able to get our referee right. By the time we get our referee right, I assure you 50% of the problems we're having in the league will be a thing of the past. And we have to build the football secretariat. The football secretariat now, I have to say, is not what it used to be when I was there as the general secretary. You have a lot of young men and women that are working in an environment that does not build their capacity for them to be able to deliver. The secretariat is supposed to be manned by men and women with enough competencies and skills to deliver on the programs that have been, the policies that have been put in place by the board for them to implement for the growth of the game. So we must ensure that we continue to build the capacity of our staff so that that secretariat, which is the engine room of the federation, is brought back to do the work for us to be able to win trophies. In the last 8 years, we have only been able to win 3 trophies. And it's a sad reflection of what the secretariat is. The secretariat is supposed to be the engine room that will deliver to us more trophies. Under the administration of Aminu Megari, which I was the General Secretary, for 4 years, we were able to, like I told you, deliver 13 trophies, global trophies. And it's because we had a vibrant secretariat. And President Megari gave us the opportunity, the free hand, to implement those policies that the board of the NFF was able to put in place. So we have to get it right in that direction. And in further trying to get it right, we must have a good synergy with the media.
Mm.
The media is a critical stakeholder in our football, and we must have a relationship with the media that is respectful. We have a good communication channel with them because they are the ones that will reach out there to the Nigerian football fans, and they will tell the football fans what the federation is doing, what challenges we are facing, and how we can make things better. So we must have a good relationship with the media, and we must recognize that they're a very, very critical stakeholder in our football. Now, in terms of the private sector is the most important sector now as we're moving forward away from government funding because government has a lot of responsibilities in other areas. We must ensure that we deepen the sponsorship that we have with our critical stakeholders, which are the sponsors and the corporate world that we have out there. We must give them the confidence to know that the funds they are putting are judiciously used, and we must be transparent and account for those funds. We must ensure that those funds are utilized only for the purposes for which corporate Nigeria gives us money. So in that respect, we have to deepen the relationship we have with our sponsors and give them that confidence to bring in more monies because they're not Father Christmas. They want to see what their funds are being used, in order to promote their own products. So these are all parts of what we have to do to get it right.
Before I also allow you go, Barrister, you've spoken so eloquently about the things you've got in store for Nigerian football. But again, just recently, the 10-year master plan has been lauded by a lot of people as a world-class document. Mr. President has backed the master plan. But the concern for football watchers and for journalists like me is the practicality of this master plan vis-a-vis the election coming up. How do you see the practicality of this master plan?
Well, I remember the master plan put in place by the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Chief Sunday Dare, and I want to commend Mr. President for putting that committee through the Honorable Minister in place for us to do a 10-year football master plan for Nigeria. This has never been done, and the committee was made up of seasoned administrators led by Alhaji Ibrahim Galadima, the former NFA chairman. It has ex-footballers, Shego Odegbami, Sunday Olise, Emmanuel Babayaro. It had also administrators of the game, Tony Nacheta, Alaja Omoyomi Duran, seasoned journalists like Ikeli Isubuzo, Ade Ojekere. And, it's a collection of people that have seen it all. They know all the problems in our football, and we were able to also bring in stakeholders and listen to them. The NFF came and made a presentation of their 5-year plan. The higher institutions came, Youth Fund came, so many other bodies were invited. The Players Union also came. So we had certain key findings with regard to what the problems of Nigerian football are and how those problems will be solved in the short, medium, and long term. And I want to say that the implementation begins now. We must ensure in the short term, which is 1 to 2 years, those things that we are supposed to do in terms of starting football development from the grassroots in the various states, in the councils begin. And we must also ensure that football, which we all love, is implemented by critical stakeholders in the states and in other areas. And I just know that if we begin to do what we're supposed to do, we will get it right in the first 2 years, which is the short term. In the medium term, we will also now build on what we've been able to do within the first 2 years, and ensure that we consolidate on those years. So within that time frame of 1 to 5 years, under this administration, with collaboration with the Ministry of Sports and with collaboration with the ministries of education in the various states, we are able to implement in the short and the medium what the master plan requires. And I'm confident that we'll be able to do it.
Before I allow you go on our show today, there's one question I've always said I'm going to ask all the presidential aspirants. The issue of there's a thin line between the loyalty to FIFA and the loyalty to the nation, especially for the NFF president. We've seen people come in as NFF president, and once they come in, it's always FIFA first, not Nigeria first. Will it be Nigeria first for you or FIFA first for you?
It has to be Nigeria. If Nigeria doesn't give you the platform, you cannot represent the NFF in any continental body. We have to recognize the fact that Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We have to also recognize that we have to, work within the laws of Nigeria. And whatever we do, we are representing the country called Nigeria out there. So we must have a robust and clearly defined relationship with government. We must know that before there was a federation called the NFF, there was a country called Nigeria, and whatever we are doing is for the country of Nigeria. And so we must ensure that everything we do, we are projecting the image of this great country and not the image of a few persons that want to believe that they can handle football in Nigeria without government coming in and telling them this is the path in which this country wants us to move. So Nigeria first, definitely. And all other countries, all other bodies like FIFA and CAF, we will work with them within the confines of what is good for Nigeria.
I want to say thank you so much. I wish you the very best in Benin. Of course, our live TV will surely be in Benin to cover the election. All the best, Barrister Musa.
Thank you, man.
Musa Madi.
Thank you very much.
That's been the voice of Barrister Musa Madi. Always a pleasure having a discussion with him on Nigerian football. We'll be back again on live TV, Complete Sports. My name is Michael Obasi. See you next time. Bye for now.